Now, you in your intro here, you talk about a personal journey.
Yeah.
So you had a point where you actually had to do all this stuff and learn all this stuff for yourself.
Yeah. And, like a lot of people, I learned things the hard way.
Right.
And it just, I think that really it could just start with a lack of direction, a lack of self-worth. For me, my personal story probably started with wanting to fit in with cool kids and not being allowed into the cool kid group.
Gotcha.
So, and I'm going to circle back and make a point off
Okay.
of something you complimented me on earlier. So I guess just, wanting to fit in, and just not being accepted into the cool kid crowd. Growing up, all my siblings were old enough to be my parents. I was an accident.
Were you the youngest?
Yeah, I was
Oh,
the youngest.
wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
my mom was like 37 when she had me. She's pushing 40 when she's pushing me out. And I mean, honestly, all of my siblings were born in her, early 20s. So there's a huge gap there. So I really kind of grew up as an only child, by myself. My parents didn't really have the best marriage, or at least one that, I thought was worth emulating. So, as a kid, I can't articulate from an adult perspective what's going on, but I saw enough of that stove to know I didn't want to touch it,
Right.
So now at 46, I've never been married. And, when there's a disconnect in a marriage, there are things that should be taught to a child that aren't being taught. So I really didn't have, among other things, that financial, background or education. My father just kind of, did things in a way that kind of shut my mother out financially. So she was always in the dark. Whenever I wanted something, it was just, hey, write a check.
Right.
Hey, that's what you do when you don't have the money. You write a check,
Right.
or you put it on layaway. And I just think that with the gap there, maybe I was taught that, love is through materialistic items or gifts or things like that, not necessarily bonding. So I always had this materialistic perspective. So as I, became an adult and I can sign for credit cards and loans and things of that nature without that proper upbringing to be prepared for it, like a lot of people, I got into situations where I didn't realize the gravity of what I was getting
Sure.
into.